What up, bitches? Welcome to Bookworms. I'm your host, Alex,
And I'm Joe.
and this is the show where we read a book and then talk about that book. And this month, we are talking about one of my personal favorites by a local author, local to us, anyways. A book that,
Local to most of you listeners, also.
yeah, a book that I really adore. It's a spin on a very old story. It's Bull by David Elliot.
And what story is this retelling, Alex?
It's a retelling of a very famous Greek myth, the myth of the Minotaur.
Is it more or less famous than Hercules?
Minotaur.
Is there a Disney movie for it?
Regrettably, not. I'm surprised there's not. There should be a Disney spin on this one.
I don't know. It's kind of bad. Yeah.
Well, it depends on whose perspective, because most of the time the story is told through the perspective of Theseus, and he just has a great time. But Theseus he's always been second banana to Hercules, so he is definitely not more famous than Hercules. He's probably not even Poseidon's best known son at this point. I think Percy Jackson is. That got me a dirty look from our audience. Joe's wife, our only listener who's not a bot.
Hey, I'm not a bot. I just downloaded it a bunch of times to get our numbers up. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's learn a little bit more about the author. Alex, you said you've met him?
I have met him. I met him
Did,
back
did you
in
fangirl him?
a little bit. So I worked in an elementary school, and we were looking to book an author visit, and so he lives nearby where we live. So reached out to him. He's David Elliot is an author of a bunch of picture books. This book, Bull, is more geared towards older teens. However, he has a large amount of children's fiction to go with as well. So we booked him, and he gave us a little scare because, it's like this is a big parent night. The parents come, they see their kids' work. We have an author visit, there's pizza, it's a good time. But he's like running super duper late. And then, like, no notice given whatsoever, he's just not showing up. And eventually he, like, shows up with, like, 5 minutes to spare before he's supposed to go on and talk to everybody. And he says that this book he was, like, late because he was getting off the phone with, like, a company that wanted to option this book for a movie. So that was pretty cool.
Is it going to become a movie?
I don't know. That was back in 2018. So
it's still possible because
it's
this stuff
definitely
takes
possible.
a long time to go through.
It's only been 5
Just like
years,
this book.
which in Hollywood time is not very long at all. But he did.
In Hollywood time, that's either 100 years or 5 minutes.
Right before he went on, though, I did tell him he had some important paperwork to sign, and then I pulled out my copy of Bull and gave it to him to sign for me, which he wrote to Alex. One way out of the labyrinth is the library, as you well know. Keep up your important work, David Elliot. What a nice guy.
Very sweet.
Yeah, but otherwise, I've kind of kept up with some of his work. He's very well versed in this style of writing, which is writing novels in verse.
I did read something that this was the first one where he really got into it, though.
Yep. So he wrote this one. He has another book about Joan of Arc, which is told in this style. And he just came out with one, I think, last year or the year before, which is a retelling of the Seven Ravens folktale, which was pretty good. This book, though, is, out of everything I've read, this has got to be his crowning achievement. This is a fantastic story told in a very unique way.
Yeah, so you said it's in verse. And it's also from a different perspective than what we normally hear the story in, as Alex kind of alluded to earlier.
Yeah, so normally the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, if you're familiar with it, it's the story of how Theseus rose from being a peasant to a king, and slaying the evil Minotaur on the island of Crete is kind of a stepping stone on his way to becoming king of Athens. This
the
story,
creator of democracy.
yeah, essentially, yeah, he's not all bad, but he it's a very epic story. It's a classic hero's journey story that you will see in Greek mythology. This story, however, changes perspective, and we see the story through the eyes of several characters. Primarily, we hear from the Minotaur Asterion, and we hear from the god Poseidon, among other characters as well.
Name them all, Alex. Come on, you can do it.
Well,
I saw you practicing earlier.
well, luckily, like many a Greek tragedy, Elliot includes a cast of characters in the front of the book, so we can learn who each person is. So we've got our god Poseidon, we've got the king of Crete Minos, we have the royal engineer Daedalus, we have Minos's wife Pasiphae, we have the bull Asterion, we have Ariadne, who's the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae, and we have Theseus. As we said, he's the heir to the throne of Athens. He's the future father of democracy.
And all around badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He's always my favorite hero.
This story does not portray him too kindly, though.
Oh, I mean, I think it's fine as long as you like dumb jocks. So yes, the story opens up with Poseidon, with the opening lines of "What a
What up,
bitches,"
bitches?
which, in 2 words, does a great job just summarizing who this person is as a character.
And this is definitely written for a modern audience in mind. This is not designed to be written like how it originally was.
Yeah, so Poseidon, he talks using a lot of modern slang. He almost exists out of time. It's kind of like in weird out of nowhere tangent, but like Aladdin with the genie. Like he's supposed to be in this ancient African kingdom, and he keeps like pretending to be like Jack Nicholson and making a lot of modern pop culture references. Poseidon does that too in this story, and it works really well. It makes it much more relatable and fun when he's just acting like a modern just total a-hole the entire time.
Yeah, and it also helps filling in a lot of the backstory that the other characters aren't able to provide with the way the narrative is set up. So we get to learn about Theseus's history, what's his name, the engineer's history and future, because he's another one that's kind of a famous, or his son is super famous.
Yeah, Daedalus is a huge name in Greek mythology. He's the royal architect. He's famous for designing the labyrinth that the Minotaur lives in, and he's also famous for his son Icarus.
He's also famous for creating the wooden bull that got the Minotaur created.
Yeah, yeah, like, he's a busy guy. They keep him busy over there in the island of Crete. But I did want to read just our first whole page of Poseidon because it summarizes basically everything that's about to happen.
Let's not have this like night watch where I was quoting half the book, Alex. You cannot quote half the book here.
Okay.
Because we'd be here. Well, we'll read the whole book in about an hour.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's a very short book.
I'll only do 2/3. What up, bitches? Am I right or am I right? That bum Minos deserved what he got. I mean, I may be a god, but I'm not unreasonable. When I am, so what? Like I said, I'm a god. Reason's got nothing to do with it. And so, just in that short amount of time, we've got some foreshadowing about how this is all going to be put in place just to punish one guy who we learn is Minos, the king, or he wants to be the ruler of the island of Crete. And Poseidon, he's just like, yeah, sure, why not? This will be fun. And
he creates a bull to be sacrificed in his name, and of course, being a god that they need that for whatever reason for their own egos, and of course, then Minos does not sacrifice said bull, but finds another lesser bull to sacrifice.
Yes, Minos is portrayed as a total dunce who thinks really highly of himself. So yes, he betrays the god of the ocean because he likes the bull that the god gave him.
Not a smart move when you live on an island in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. And kind of like we've learned with Poseidon, reason's got nothing to do with it. He's really angry that he didn't get that bull back, and he's going to hurt Minos as much as he possibly can. And that involves hurting his family.
Yeah, starting with the wife, having her fall madly in love with the bull, and doing the nasty with said bull, creating a monster child with the bull.
Mythology's not very pretty when you get into the nitty gritty.
This is not a Disney episode.
What's that joke about the movie Hercules? Like the most historically inaccurate thing they ever did was portray Zeus as a loving father. So Poseidon's not much different. So yes, he puts a spell on Pasiphae to make her, who's Minos's wife, to make her want to have intimate relations with the bull, she enlists their royal architect Daedalus to build a fake bull that she can crawl into so that the real bull can do its stuff. And it works really well. She gets pregnant.
Messed her up in the head long term, as we find out. And the way as characters start to go into madness, the way that they are portrayed in their poetry changes in the story. The pages get darker, and the print turns from black to white, and it gets very random and hectic.
Yeah, so yeah, David Elliot uses a few different kind of like modes of delivery to make different points.
And each character has their own different type of poetry that represents kind of who they are. And,
Yeah,
and,
yeah. If
and
we,
in the back of the book, he explains, which forms of poetry he used for each of those characters.
yeah, so like we see a lot of Poseidon, and he talks about how there's no like one form about him, the way he speaks in the book. Like it's most of the time he speaks in couplets, a certain number of syllables, but it can change at any time. It's very random, and that's just to help carry across that message that this is a unpredictable person that we're dealing with, who just basically can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, where Pasiphae speaks in syllabic lines, but as she becomes more unhinged, the stream of consciousness just goes haywire. And
Yep, yeah, the words start to separate, the punctuation disappears, and it becomes very rambly, very stream of conscious style. And then, like the last time she speaks, her words are word vomited all over the page, no particular style or anything. It's just a bunch of random words on a page, kind of scattered all about. But yes, there is a half boy, half bull creature roaming around the castle now.
yeah, and we get his early life in this story, where in the normal story we get him at birth, and then when he's killing people in the
Yeah,
well,
when
right before he goes into the labyrinth. And
yeah,
when
we
they put
get
him
that
in the
he's
labyrinth.
a angry rage monster in a labyrinth that is a tool of the king to punish people. But yeah, the first time we see Asterion, he's only 3 years old, and he's reciting a nursery rhyme that his mother reads to him, which is interesting because his mother is the only person who loves this thing. Everyone else, they either steer clear of it or they are only interacting with the bull child because they've been ordered to by their monarchy. But yeah, Asterion, we see him and he's just reciting a little nursery rhyme. Mommy has a little calf, little calf, little calf. Mommy has a little calf, his nose is black as tar. She calls her calf Asterion, Asterion, Asterion. That's my name, Asterion. I'm ruler of the stars. And that's a big thing with Asterion. That name, like, roughly translates to something to do with stars. I forget exactly what it means, but
Was in the original myth, did he ever actually have a name, or is this something that David Elliot just came up with? Alex on the fly, looking up on his phone.
nothing says professional podcaster like.
Yeah, Alex obviously did not do his homework.
Just a quick Google search. There's so much cool stuff. It's mostly just referred to as a Minotaur. And it's interesting that he's given a name to about that has to do with stars, and then his fate is to be locked away in an underground labyrinth.
In total dark.
Yeah, in darkness. He dies in darkness. Spoilers, he dies at the end.
Leave it to us to spoil the book within the first 10 minutes. Good thing you read it already.
Yeah, 10 minutes and just a couple thousand years.
So yeah, we get Asterion as he's growing up, and his life is slowly getting worse and worse as he realizes what a hideous beast he is and how he is so basically hated by everyone except for his mother and his half sister.
Yeah, it's interesting because like we see him at 3, then we see him at 9, and he ages a lot like humans do. And so like at 3, he's kind of oblivious to a lot of the opinions people have of him, and it's like, oh, I'm special, I'm great, this is nice, I'm ruler of the stars. And then he gets 9 years old, third, fourth grade age child, and he's starting to realize like these things are different, and that's not necessarily a good thing, and these people don't actually like me. And he's starting to become aware of the feelings that people have for him, and that he's been kind of designated this freak, this monster that everyone's afraid of. Then we get into when he's 12 and he's a tween, and he's starting to kind of get into more of his, definitely falling more into himself.
He's at his emo stage.
Yeah, yeah. His age 12 page is literally just what I hate. A list of things like what I hate: mirrors, hats, the looks, the king, light. What I love: the sea, the sky, my books, the queen, night. So it's very short, but it's enough to get that point across. Like, this guy doesn't like himself too much, and then he gets into his teenage years, and he doesn't get much farther beyond that.
Yeah, so let's talk about his half sister, because as his mom goes into madness, she becomes less and less part of his life, and she was basically the only one that was talking to him. But as soon as she kind of falls off the sanity wagon, the sister kind of steps in and takes the motherly role up.
Yeah, I'd say it's different though. I read it like she says she loves Asterion, but I never really got that impression, even before she betrays him in the end. Like, she didn't have that same kind of love. Her like favoritism of him seemed to stem more from her hatred of her parents, because she hates especially her father. But she also doesn't like her mother.
I kind of read it as the hatred of her parents, but like a kindled soul, where they were both. She felt different, even though she was the lovely, beautiful daughter. She felt like Asterion looked. That she was just different, and so she, it was that sisterly, brotherly, bonding, but also just like, hey, we're both different, and we both want to get out of here. We have that common cause.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a sibling thing, and like they kind of like promise each other, they give each other hope for a better future, because neither of them are happy where they are.
I guess I got the motherly thing with, especially when she's talking to the Minotaur after he's been put in the labyrinth, and she's just talking to him through that little hole, trying to keep him from going completely insane, and just making all these promises is just any day now, any day now. It's just the plan is coming together any day now.
Yeah, but she's lying to him, isn't she?
I don't think she's meaning to lie to him though. I think that's just she wants, like, the original, I guess what you call a lie is they're gonna escape off the island. They're gonna hop on the ship that her brother returns home on, but then their brother gets killed in Athens, and it alters the plans. Doesn't, they live on an island. There's got to be hundreds of ships going in and out every day. Doesn't explain why they couldn't take on any ship. But she decides, we're gonna go on this ship as soon as my brother gets here, and everyone's distracted by his glory, coming in, winning the games at Athens.
And then her brother Androgeos dies under mysterious circumstances. Poseidon initially says it was him who like altered the spear so that it strikes him through his tent, but that's not the case. And his death is what triggers the labyrinth to get built in the first place.
Yeah, and our favorite builder builds it up. In the original myth, he's supposed to be killed in it, but he barely escapes, and he tells the sister how one can escape out of there, which is a fairly simple method of tie a piece of string to the door and to yourself and walk, and then follow it back.
Yeah, it was like, kind of like Doy. Yeah, but Ariadne makes sure there's like a little aperture in the labyrinth so she can still talk to Asterion and still give him hope. But after Androgeos dies, she doesn't really have a plan, and she's just kind of giving lip service to try and help Asterion keep his sanity. Because once he gets put in the labyrinth, oh boy, he starts to lose it pretty quick.
I mean, that's what happens with isolation with most people. Is as soon as you're completely cut off, and again, this place isn't. He's in almost total darkness, total quiet, completely isolated. you're bound to go insane, and he was already headed on that path anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, because the visual cue that the book gives that he's falling into mindless rage is, as you said, the darkening of his pages. So it gets his every time he's a perspective character, his pages get progressively darker throughout the story until they're pitch black. And when by the time he's in the labyrinth, he's got black pages and white text, and his words are starting to kind of take on a more free form style than what he had previously exhibited.
Kind of like his mother.
It's very much so.
But yeah, so what's her face? The sister there. She doesn't have a plan. Doesn't have a plan. All of a sudden, this boy wonder gets on everyone's radar as Theseus works his way to Athens to claim his rightful place as king of Athens, and then he finds out that, hey, there's this thing where all the noble born every few years, it was either every 7 years or every year, it never really goes on about it.
It was a payment for Androgeus' death. The nation of Athens had to send
seven boys, seven girls.
boys and 7 girls to be sacrificed, and Minos was going to use the Minotaur to be be the person who did them in.
And it doesn't really go into it, but Asterion in the original myth was already killing people beforehand, and he had done it at least a few times in the labyrinth before Theseus came along. But so this
one shortens the time frame a little bit, so it's like it reads like it's the first time this has happened, and Theseus is like he's all on board to go there and prove his mettle and slay the monster.
Where he seduces the sister rather easily.
Yeah, it's said that again, Poseidon. He says that he put a spell on her to make her fall in love with, or he got Cupid to put a spell on her to make her fall in love with Theseus at first sight. He retracts that later on, but he basically gives her a bunch of empty promises. Says, "Oh yeah, I'll get your brother out of there," when he had no intention of doing that. He just was trying to get in bed with her.
Get in bed and find out how to get out of there and kill the bull.
Yeah, and he finds out about the twine trick, and he goes in there.
Yeah, and she gives him the sword that kills her own half brother, because he needs to protect himself from the giant rats. Those damn giant rats from Princess Bride strike again.
Yeah, and Theseus only has 2 pages.
Yeah, it's really not focused on him, and they do really make him look like the asshole.
Yeah, because like he's just a quick little thing here. Like the first thing we see, he's talking about Ariadne, and he's just like Ariadne, what a rack! I knew I'd get her in the sack. As for her, bro, she won't outlive me. No sweat. In time, they all forgive me. Well, he's not wrong.
Yeah, kind of setting up the whole thing of the story changes to make him look like the hero in it instead of just some jerk off that running around killing people in the name of himself.
And then we get Asterion, and he's waiting for Ariadne to come get him, and then he hears Theseus mocking him, and he realizes he's been betrayed by the last person who ever loved him, and he kind of just gives into that rage, and they fight, and it doesn't end well for him.
No, I mean, sword versus head. Usually sword wins. I mean, even if your head has giant horns on it, yeah, usually the sword's are going to win. Especially when neither can really see what's going on and he's just bellowing in rage, kind of giving away his position.
And they give us his dying words, which just basically him just lamenting all the betrayal and the loneliness that he feels, and he's using those feelings to describe what hell is like. And he says, "Hell is not for the pushing of a boulder up a mountainside to watch it roll back with a broken back and broken shoulder. Hell is the numbing of the soul. Hell is not an unfulfilled desire, it's colder. Nor the thirst that takes its victim whole. Hell is the freezing scorn for who you are that transforms a faultless boy to Minotaur."
Yeah, and that's basically the end of the book, other than Poseidon kind of giving a few more background details and retracting or adding to what his story is, making him kind of an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, he does, I guess, 3 things real quick in the epilogue. Number 1, he just gives a summary of what happens next. Theseus takes Ariadne on his ship dumps her on an island and then goes back and becomes king of Athens. So it didn't work out for Ariadne very well. He also mentions Daedalus, tries to escape the island with his son. That's another famous story of his son Icarus flying too close to the sun on wings made of wax. The wax melts, he falls into the ocean and drowns. And then Poseidon also admits he did not do as much as he said he did. He basically put this charm spell on Pasiphae to get her to covet the bull, but beyond that, he really didn't do a lot. Ariadne chose to betray the Asterion on his own, and all the other stuff he did. He just
basically just letting humans be humans. He says.
Yeah, I got it right here. He says, "It was just me counting on you to do the things you mortals do: ridicule, follow orders, stay passive, and betray. What a pity! It could have gone another way."
Even
So
though we all know that it really couldn't have, he wouldn't have allowed it.
Well, he says he didn't actually put the spear. He didn't kill Androgeos. He didn't put the spell on Ariadne. He just kind of relied on it. But I have a feeling if he's trying to punish this guy, if humans had tried to exhibit a different behavior, he probably would have stepped in at some point. But yeah, just he kind of mocks himself a little bit for almost showing an emotion for this whole story, and then he heads back to the sea with ta-ta bitches.
Yeah, so that's the book. It's real short, under 200 pages. A lot of pages are single word on them, and everything's
talking about
in
form,
verse.
talking about just the artistic form he takes. That's a great, sometimes you throw a word in italics or give it its own paragraph. If he had a point he was trying to make, he gave each word its own page.
Yeah. I remember trying to get to page 100. I'm like, oh, I'm almost there. I got 10 pages to go. 5 words later, oh, I only got 5 pages to go.
Yeah, it's 95. Oh, I'm almost there. How close? Almost to page 100. And then it's that's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, I don't know if that had to be a word per page, but yeah, still pretty good.
Yeah. So conclusions, Alex. Yeah, obviously, you still love this book.
Yeah, I think I gave it 5 stars after my first review, and I maintained that after my second read through.
I gave it 4 stars. It's definitely interesting and different and funny. Very good. Not quite 5-star status.
How dare you?
I know. Hey, you gotta be honest with these things. This isn't best book I've ever read kind of story here.
Yeah, it's up there for me. My wife really likes it too.
As she's glaring at him right now. We'll get into some of the questions I have for the end of each episode. How do you think the formatting affects this book, and writing in a verse, being geared towards a younger audience?
I think its modernized approach is definitely its biggest strength for appealing to that audience. Greek mythology, just in general, it sounds dry, but it's filled with just really awful things that are a lot of fun to read about.
And teenagers eat that stuff up.
Yeah. I think this is presented in a way. It's a quick read. It's entertaining. It has a lot of different perspectives that you normally wouldn't get from reading the old stories. So I think the prose, the verse forms, the verse forms are, it's a good way to do it, and it's not overbearing, it's not heavy-handed, it's got some messages it's trying to get across, but overall it's just an entertaining read. It's got comedy, tragedy, some action, and it's pretty entertaining.
Does the story stay true to the original text, or is the retelling for a modern audience change the story?
So I think in his afterword, I'm not going to pull it up now, but he actually talks about that. The basic facts of the story are all there, and this is again an old story, kind of like you encounter most of the time in mythology and folklore. The story changes depending on who's telling it. The main change is the fact that he portrays Asterion as a sympathetic character rather than just a brute monster, and he kind of changes some perspectives on these characters that we've known about for so long.
Does that change the story in your mind?
It doesn't change what happens. It changes your perspective, however.
Was the Minotaur given due justice in the retelling? Uh, him being fleshed out, how do you think he differs from the original?
No, I mean in the original he's just this angry rage monster. In this one, he's a troubled character. I can
But
call him.
thoughtful.
He's very thoughtful, very introspective, and he's just crushed by loneliness. Actually, one of the reviews on the back of the book kind of sum it up pretty well. Why Asterion is like he is. It says it takes a god to make a boy into a beast, but it is we humans who turn him into a monster. So, like, it's this perspective that he's tortured not by gods or by how he looks, but by the people around him who reject him.
Was this a good story for the retelling, or would you have liked to seen David Elliot pick a different one?
I mean, there were.
I mean, this is kind of a well-known story. I get, why he would pick it, because if he's trying to sell books, pick one that people know. But was this, with this form, was this the best story he could have picked from?
I mean, this is personally one of my favorite stories from Greek mythology. Is the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. I love that story well before I read this book, and this book just kind of made me enjoy it even more. And I mean, he could have chosen other monsters. I mean, there's plenty of other monsters you can cast as sympathetic characters, like I don't know, like the Cyclops, for example, from the Odyssey, or any of the there's sirens. There's what are some
Any
other
of the
monsters out there?
Hercules is,
Yeah,
uh,
anything that Hercules fought.
pretty much everything. So I think he did such a good job with this story. I can't picture him not doing it. I think this is, for a general audience, this story's just well known enough, but none of the details are known. So everyone knows about the labyrinth and the Minotaur, but I don't think most people remember Theseus's name, if you know what I mean. It's like, oh yeah, it's that guy that killed the Minotaur. So
I think he's well known
I,
enough.
well, I think for a general audience, I think
Yeah,
book nerds like you or me know who he is because we're paying attention to this stuff.
yeah, because I mean he's arguably the second best known Greek hero.
I don't want to say that. I would say, uh, oh, Achilles is probably the second best known,
Yeah, it's possible. I always thought of
or the
I
other
always
one.
chose Theseus over Achilles.
Yeah, but it's the whole Odyssey and
Oh, like Odysseus.
Odysseus, or the different characters from the Iliad. I mean, it said Hercules probably number one no matter who you ask. But so I think Theseus is kind of that forgotten one that he's probably should be more famous because he did a lot more. He did a lot more crazy good adventures, where these other guys were more selfish in their goals.
And like getting into some like background of Greek myths, like there were like three stages of like talking about the hero's tale. Early Greek stories, the heroes were the gods, and then the second era is where Theseus come in, where and Hercules as well, where they're half god, and so they're starting to show those more human traits. And then it's the final like third stage, like the heroes become fully human. That's where we get our Achilles and our Odysseus's. You can argue, I guess, top three. It's probably going to be Hercules number one, and then you can argue Theseus or Achilles, depending on what you prefer. I don't know. I like my heroes to survive.
I got nothing to say. So, me being a big fan of the Irish mythology, pretty much for them to become a hero, they have to die at the end. So that's like a
Yeah.
job requirement.
Yeah, nothing but tragic heroes.
Uh, what are your thoughts on Theseus as a modern day hero? Does he break the mold of what we would consider heroes from like comic books? Is he more likable, more real than say some of these modern day heroes that we follow, like Superman or Batman?
So, like, Theseus has never been like portrayed as like this perfect hero. Is like this book leaves out the fact that he promised his father that he would return from Crete. He said like, "You'll know I'm alive if we sail back under white sails." But then he sails back under black sails, and he becomes king of Athens because his father sees the black sails. He's like, "My son has died," and he hurls himself off a cliff. And Theseus arrives and he becomes king. So he makes a lot of mistakes. He does a lot of really bad stuff throughout his journeys, and like he's portrayed a lot as very young in this story, and he's very young in all of his journeys, and he makes a lot of mistakes during those times.
I kind of liken him to the TV show The Boys as one of the superheroes there, where especially with the way this book is written, where he just has a really good PR team, writing after the fact he screws up that he was really this great guy. He had great intentions. He just, he's kind of human like the rest of you, so he does make mistakes. And really, he's just a arrogant douche.
Yeah, you can get a lot of PR, good PR when you're king of Athens.
Okay, final question. What other story would you like to see from David Elliot? Any other myth retellings?
I'd like him to do another myth retelling. Like I said, I read his first retelling of Joan of Arc, which I thought was really good. And then he also retold, he has got another book called The Seventh Raven, which is retelling of a folk tale. I would like to see him carry on with this. Maybe tackle a myth from Norse mythology, because I
Boo.
love me some Norse mythology.
Boo. They're already overdone.
They ain't overdone.
Let's do some Celtic mythology.
No, Norse is where it's at.
No.
Paul
I was
Plimpton
actually thinking maybe
Paul
continue
Plimpton
with.
versus Ragnarok, baby.
I was thinking continue with the Greek stuff and maybe do the Argonauts. That would be kind of interesting. As again, one of those ones that everyone kind of's heard about, but I don't think a lot of people actually know about anything about it.
Honestly, I've heard that. I don't know if I've ever actually heard the whole story about the Argonauts. So that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll reach out to him since he's my buddy now and he signed my book.
Yeah, you guys are on first name basis.
No, I'll call him Dave.
So our thesis question for you, Alex, if you choose to accept it.
It would be awkward if I didn't. So let's do it. No.
You can say no. That's okay. Leave our readers pissed off that you refuse to answer my questions.
My words are my own.
So does the Minotaur being, I don't know if it would be personified or personalized, and given a backstory, change your opinion of the story as a whole? And does it change the possibility for a lot of these other myths, with the potential of these bad, supposed bad guys being fleshed out and more humanized and given more human problems of why they went the way they did?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've seen lately with creating stories that give villains their backgrounds. I don't know, like Maleficent or Cruella do that. I would like to see more of these retellings with the way David Elliot's doing it, because a lot of these older stories, they tend to lack some character development. And like the original Minotaur story, he's just a monster, and Minos is just this king, and Theseus is a hero. So having these backgrounds makes the Minotaur's death much more impactful. It's more than just this is a huge stepping stone in Theseus's career. This is, he is taking a life and he's hurting other people around him. And that just kind of gives the story a little more oomph, a little more feels.
Yeah, I mean, definitely creating the Minotaur as an actual character, naming him Mysterion. It's definitely a very modern thing to do that we've been doing. People have been doing a lot in today's older, retellings. A lot of people just don't accept the answer of the bad guy is the bad guy because he's bad. Yeah, they don't want that. They want to know why. They want the why of the thing. They don't just want to take it at face value anymore. Just as they don't want to say the good guy's good because he does good, they want to say, well, is he actually good, or is there something nefarious behind the scenes?
And that's just the evolution of storytelling. You want
I think it reflects just how our society is right now anyways, because there is a lot of mistrust with a lot of our original stories and the way people view pretty much anything right now. They want their version of a truth, and they don't want to just accept someone else's answer of this is why it is the way it is.
it's not enough to know just that they're doing bad things. They want to know why are you doing this bad thing?
Yeah, and again, like you said, a lot of these old myths lack details. They are very basic stories. They've been stripped down to the bare essentials, which is part of the reason why they've survived
Yeah,
thousands of years.
there's something to be said about good versus evil, and the hero the hero being triumphant over malevolent forces. It makes for entertaining read, but you also want to get those motivations, and it often leaves you wanting more.
So that's all I got. If you're more interested and want to dive deeper into the mythology of the Greeks in this story and of Theseus in general, there's a good podcast out there called Myths and Legends, done by Jason Weiser. Check it out. He's pretty thorough. He likes to put his own kind of spin in modern day arguments about the stories. He covers more than just Greek. He's covering myths and legends from all over the world. Check it out. Definitely learn a lot if you do.
Do you think he'll advertise us since we just advertised him?
No.
He can't see that far down.
No. And, I mean, he's not exactly a Joe Rogan either, but he's still, skyscraper compared to where we are in the dirt. Us worms.
Us bookworms.
Yep. So, you have anything else, Alex? Or are you good?
No, I'm good. Fantastic book. I'll probably read it again someday.
You'll probably read it again tonight.
I might
drive home.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, be at a stoplight and just kind of read through the whole thing real quick.
Yeah, it's about a 5-minute read.
Took a little longer than that. It's like 2 hours if you're taking notes.
Yeah, I did it in 2 sittings, so definitely one of the easier ones to prep for our podcast.
Yeah, thank God, because that last 2 were doozies.
Yeah. Fuck you, Adam. So, if you would like to get a hold of us, we have an email, kendallbookworms@gmail.com. We have an Instagram, @kendallbookworms.
Yep, send Joe some messages so he can tell me all about it.
Yeah, I do control the social media side of things because Alex does not do any of that stuff. We have a website linked in the description below through Podbean, who hosts our little podcast here. Check us out. Give us comments, likes, wherever you can on the different podcast listeners. Get our ratings up. Tell your friends about us. That's the best way to get us known and out there. Let's get our downloads and listens up. That would be awesome.
What's our next book, Joe?
Hold on.
I'm just so excited.
I know. I hope you've been enjoying our bonus episodes. If you would like to do some further reading, Alex has some books he's written. You can buy them through Amazon on the links below. What book is your favorite one that you've...
Oh, yeah. Check out what Paul Plimpton versus Ragnarok.
His little plug for the Norse mythology.
Yeah. It's good,
maybe David Elliot can do a rewrite for you and make it a bestseller.
Really turns the Norse myths on their head, if you ask me.
So, if you're curious about our next book, it's going to be Stiff by Mary Roach. It is my pick. It is a non-fiction, so it's going to be a little bit different. It's a series of scientific achievements by humans following cadavers. So check it out. It is hilarious and very informative. And if you like that book, I highly recommend pretty much all of her other books. You have Bonk, Spook, Grunt, to name a few. So, yeah, very creative titles.
Yeah. She writes enough books, she might have a full sentence there.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it. We'll see you next month, unless if we have another bonus episode for you. If you have any suggestions,
Be gentle.
Be gentle, and we will take it under consideration.
No more hopscotches, please.
Yeah, no more hopscotches. We are not doing Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah, originally I had an idea of doing like bonus episodes just every like couple months of really difficult to read books, and I thought Hopscotch could be the kickoff for that. But after reading Hopscotch, I have thoroughly changed my mind.
And I have technically read Finnegan's Wake. Well, I can't say I understood anything other than the majority of the words written in it. I refuse to ever touch that book again.
Yeah, that would be a very short podcast. Be like, all right, what's this book about? I don't know. Do you know? Nope. All right, this has been...
We'd basically be reading Wikipedia pages telling us what it's about.
Even Wikipedia doesn't know.
So, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah. Until next time, I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bookworms.